Hello and welcome once again to Breakfast All Day. I am Christy and Matt is here and Alonso is here. We've got a bit of a double header for you on this one. Two documentaries which are kind of similar in some ways. One is called Circus of Books. The other is called The Bookseller. We'll start with Alonso with Circus of Books.
So Circus of Books just premiered on Netflix. It made the festival rounds last year. It was opening night of Outfest 2019. And Rachel Mason is a first-time feature filmmaker making a movie about her parents, who ran Circus of Books, which is the sort of legendary LA emporium for adult materials, although they were also a legit bookstore. Like one of the locations is around the corner from us, and it's where Dave and I would go by like Sight and Sound and Art Forum. But that's not what keeps your doors open. What keeps your doors open is the lube. But anyway, so it's a fascinating.
That's a new way of talking about that.
There you go. It's an interesting story on a lot of levels. First of all, Rachel Mason's parents are like a fairly traditional, like conservative Jewish couple that just happened to own this business that is adult oriented, and it wasn't something they particularly told their friends about, or their kids didn't really know for a long time what it was they did. Just they owned a bookstore. But because this was happening in the 70s and 80s in West Hollywood, the store became kind of a hub for the community, particularly as the AIDS pandemic happened. It was a place where people would go to get free condoms, to pick up information. It's kind of a gathering place. And so, a lot of times we see in marginalized communities that these sort of public ventures, whether they're stores or like hair salons or whatever, kind of become a place for the community to gather. And then it's also sort of about the sort of changing nature of pornography and how the internet kind of, destroyed an entire kind of way of doing business in terms of, selling magazines and whatnot. So these three different kind of stories intersect in really interesting ways. The director's brother comes out as gay at one point. The parents are not maybe as open to it as you might think, given what they do for a living, but that they do come around finally. So it's just an interesting portrait of all these different things, and as such, I think really operates interestingly as a documentary. And then we also looked at The Booksellers. Matt, you want to take that one?
So The Booksellers is a story or a documentary from D.W. Young about rare book dealers
in New York City.
In New York City, specifically, mostly in New York City. And it's produced by Parker Posey. She's the EP on this. Fran Lebowitz shows up in this. And a lot of these booksellers who've been in the business for, in some cases, decades. One of the people they talk to is kind of his father was in the business, his grandfather was in the business in London. And it's a fascinating look at what a lot of the older guard in this say is a disappearing kind of career. But some of the younger ones are saying, no, actually it's just changing. And it's, somewhat similar. It talks about the community of old bookstores and used bookstores, and it is a really interesting kind of look at that. It's a very niche kind of profession and specialty in that they talk about how you've got scouts that will go out and hit estate sales and find and have a good eye for what's valuable and what's not. It makes me think of, the closest thing I can relate to is as someone who would from time to time don't go and dig through records and go crate digging at record stores. There's kind of a similar vibe. And they talk about how different it is than, say, the art world, or as Lebowitz now says, it's now the art market. I think that Booksellers, or The Booksellers, which is available, you're best off going to booksellersmovie.com, and it's doing like Kino was or is, which is you can go and buy the movie or
from
rent
different
the movie.
Theater sites.
And you can rent the movie and in partnership through their site with a local theater, and they'll get a piece of the action. And I think this one is a somewhat tighter documentary than Circus of Books. I will say I was glad I watched Circus of Books first and then this one, because I keep bringing up Leibowitz partly because she's the one who I can remember her name. She talks about how you can't imagine throwing books away, and saw that after the scene where the mom in Circus of Books is just throwing out all this old crap, right, including magazines and stuff that they don't want anymore. And it was just like, oh, don't let Leibowitz catch you doing that.
Yeah, I mean, they're interesting contrasts, I think, that just sort of coincidentally are happening around the same time. Circus of Books obviously is a very LA story. Booksellers, while it is about an industry, does seem more focused on New York City. People talk about how many more bookstores there used to be in New York and how it's harder and harder to come by, and how, part of the reason that you meet the three sisters who run the Argosy bookstore that was their father's at one point, and they're still around because their father had the foresight to buy the building back in the day. So, they're being crowded out by like very expensive New York real estate, but like they're not going anywhere. So I mean, I think they have their kind of different agendas at play. Certainly like Circus of Books is focused on this one family, Booksellers is more about a community. But I think they both, have interesting things to say about like the nature of acquisition and collection and that kind of thing. In the Booksellers, they talk about how, the hunt was always like a big part of the challenge and the fun of being a book collector. And now if you are somebody who's like, oh, I like Edith Wharton and I want a set of first edition Edith Whartons, spend an hour on like a Libris or whatever, and you'll find them,
Right. I mean, it may cost you $50,000.
Exactly. But they're there,
Right. Well, and one of the fascinating things Booksellers does is they talk to a few of these dealers that talk about how tastes change over the years, right? Yeah. And how at some point nobody cared about dust jackets, and then dust jackets became really important. And they walk us through like, a first edition of copy of Great Gatsby is probably $5,000, and then maybe one that's signed might be 10. If you got it, or one with like a ratty dust jacket might be 10. But if you find one with a pristine dust jacket, that might be like $130,000.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, and then some of the books these guys bring out, these various people, like they're these big, they'll have like slides of fish bones, and it's something that's, the size of a hat box, or even, I mean, it's, what has to be like a 50-pound book.
A book bound in human skin.
Yeah, there's
just crazy shit.
Yeah, I like Booksellers, because one of the things they talk about is, again, like, initially it's, the dust jackets go a long way, and then it's, does the ownership and like, what does the book mean? Like, was this signed by the author to some other famous person? And then that'll jack the price way up. And now how recently there's more, other things other than just books that people might be interested in collecting, and how, for some people, the internet's really changed and hurt their careers. But then, you get the sense from some of the younger people in the business, like, oh, no, this is great. There's all kinds of stuff we can change.
Yeah, the Booksellers is shot mainly in the kind of stores where Melissa McCarthy was ripping people off in Can You Ever Forgive Me?
I was just thinking about that listening to you guys. So clearly I haven't seen Circus of Books, but not the Booksellers. But as you're painting this picture, I'm thinking about like that kind of rarefied air and that kind of like snooty intellectualism for that kind of stuff. Yeah. I was impressed with Circus of Books in its ability to be about a very specific place and time, this very specific corner in this neighborhood, in this community, and showing the importance of it. And also how it's a larger story of, as you say, Alonso, a larger trend of the way the internet has changed so many industries, right? And so in ways that are detrimental, actually, because part of what this place functioned as was a meeting spot. And, maybe you're not totally comfortable in your skin and you go to this store hesitantly and you meet somebody else in the hardcore porn section and who shares your very specific proclivity, and that's love.
Or by the Armistead Maupin novels. They carried a lot of non-hardcore gay.
One of the people in Circus of Books talks about how the internet has really kind of not killed, but it really changed the nature of the gay bar.
Totally. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because now you just meet people over the internet, right? I mean, that's probably done that for bars in general.
Yeah, I'm sure Tinder for straight people, same thing in terms of like the idea of, well, if I want to meet somebody, if I want to like run in, like be on the hunt for whatever it is, be it companionship or a relationship or whatever. Like I have to go to the bar because that's where people gather. But yeah, now it's like, you're swiping left and right.
Right. And it's detrimental to an entire generation's ability to communicate, right? To socialize.
And interact.
The fundamentals of getting to know somebody, like it's a thing you develop over time, knowing how to be social and how to come to, reveal yourself and let somebody do that for you. And that's all gone with the swipe of a finger. So I think that it's an interesting snapshot of a larger phenomenon in that regard. And the couple is just so sweet, and yet when their son comes out, the way they handle that is quite revelatory and unexpected. And so I thought that the candid nature of how they deal with that development in their family is also a whole other poignant level to this story.
But that's really more about the mom who'd grown up in a more conservative religious environment, whereas Barry's like, well, guys can abuse guys too. Like that guy's just got that smile on his face the whole time. And he's kind of, you get the sense that like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I love the portrait of them and how like they even sort of seem reticent to even be in this movie, or that anybody's making a movie about them the whole time is kind of like a recurring motif. Why is this? Who cares about this? Why is this interesting?
Wait, so Alonso, what's at that corner now? The corner of Santa Monica and La Jolla. What is that?
At the corner of Santa Monica and La Jolla, the space is still there. And do y'all know who Shishi LaRue is by chance?
A porn director,
but also has a like sort of porn, has a store further down Santa Monica Boulevard that sells like condoms and porn and goofy like Club Kid t-shirts or whatever. He has taken over that space. The sign, according to the signage, it's now going to be called Shishi LaRue's Circus, and there are mannequins in the window that are dressed in very sort of circusy kind of ways. I don't know if it's officially opened yet or not. Like I don't know if they opened before all of this craziness happened, or if it's going to exactly. But I don't know if they officially opened before everything shut down, or if it's going to open later. But it's decked out and ready to go. So that corner is, it lives again.
One thing I want to say about both these movies, as much as I think The Booksellers is a better movie, Circus of Books has better shirts. Barry's consistent wearing of Hawaiian shirts agrees with me.
There you go.
And then, what's his name? Stryker.
Jeff Stryker.
Yes.
Stryker.
Oh my God.
When we see Jeff Stryker now, like that's a terrific shirt he's wearing. Just gonna say.
Alonso, were you aware of Jeff Stryker?
I was aware of Jeff Stryker. I know I was familiar with his.
Were you aware of Jeff Stryker?
I was not, no, but like, clearly he was legendary.
You could not be a gay man in the late 1980s and not know who Jeff Stryker was. He was a very big deal, as it were.
As it were.
Yes.
the titles of the gay porn are so hilarious. Oh. I mean, the titles of all porn are hilarious.
Consistently, yeah.
School of Hard Cocks.
The best.
Yeah, that's the thing is I think one of the things we've missed anymore is now you see all these porn titles. I mean, not that I see a ton of them.
Right.
Few, but, it's like this isn't...
You can imagine.
This isn't The Avengers or... that's not Birds of Prey, whatever.
Yeah, the triple X parody, right?
Right. Like you see the parody. We've lost the wonderful art of porno titles.
Edward Penis Hands.
Right.
Oh my God.
Oh no, the best, worst ever. Schindler's Fist.
That's not real though. That was a joke that John Waters made once. That's not an actual film. I don't think it's an actual film. I mean,
I'm not looking it up.
Tell us in the comments, but I don't.
You can look it up, Alonso. I'm not going to look it up. Christy, look that up for us.
I don't want that in my Google history. I
don't want those cookies. All right, so I'm saying 6.8 for Circus of Books. Like it's a nice movie.
I'm saying 7.5 for Circus of Books. I think it's a nice cultural history, but it's also like a cool family film. I mean, it is a first film. There are, maybe you can tell this is a director I think who's going to grow as a documentary filmmaker. But I think for a first feature, it's really strong.
Gets a 6 from me. I'm a hater.
So 6.8 is our number on Circus of Books. And then what do you guys give Booksellers?
I also give that a 7.5. I think that it is, its focus is different than Circus of Books, but I think it also sort of captures, this this very rarefied world and sort of how it's changing and hopefully going to continue to survive, unlike Circus of Books, in a changing world.
Cool.
Yeah, I give Bookseller a 7.5 as
You
well.
both did.
Yeah.
Just to make math easy on me.
There we go.
No, but I'm giving it anyway.
But that's the net result. So thank you.
There you go.
I'm always confident in your ability to do math, Christy.
Thank you. I'm doing 4th grade math all the time. I'm really good at it. Nick is doing angles these days. I totally understand how to use a protractor. It's very
wow.
fun.
You're ahead of me on that one then. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. Anyway. Thank you all for watching. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and visit our Patreon page over at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. So much stuff happening over there, talking about TV like Mrs. America and The Plot Against America and Westworld. We've got a viewer's choice review coming up on that. Check your page for a survey that'll be happening. And if you are following The Last Dance on ESPN, the 10-hour Michael Jordan documentary, Christy and a rotating stable of guest stars are
following The Last Pants.
There's the porn title.
The porno title.
They're going to be recapping that epic sports doc. So anyway, lots to look at. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.